you'll come upon a village, Bree under Bree Hill, with doors looking westward. There you'll find an old inn that is called the Prancing Pony. Barlaam Butterbur is the worthy keeper. There you can stay the night, and afterwards the morning will speed you upon your way. Hey everyone, Yoyston here, and I hope you all are doing well, wherever you are in Middle-earth. Today we are taking a look at the history of the village of Bree, one of the last northern settlements of men in the late Third Age. For more information, please check out the related articles and videos in the description and cards. My friends, thank you all so much for being here. Let's begin our tale. Founded in the Second Age by men from Dunland, or pre-Númenóreans, who were at least related to the Dunlandings, and perhaps and likely even related to those kin of the Adain who buried their dead in the Barrow Downs, Bree would come to intersect the north-south road and the east-west road of Eriador. It was likely settled sometime after the War of the Elves and Sauron in 1701, during the Dark Years, as men fled the evils of Sauron in the south and east. This village was located on and around Bree Hill, which would be encased in a ditch that ran around the village, and a great green hedge on the nearer side of the ditch, with gates at the northwestern and southeastern ends of the village. While it certainly could not hold its own in any great siege, the ditch and hedge actually made the village quite defensible. Besides this, Bree did not really see much action or invasion, which is something surprising, as its position would become important in the fracturing of Arnor and its reputation as a village of trade and economy in the north. Sometime after the settling of Bree land, or the area in which this village was built, other smaller settlements would be built as well during the late Second Age and early Third. Around the year 1300 of the Third Age, hobbits would come to live with men in these different settlements in and around Bree. Stadel, which was mostly made up of hobbits who farmed pipeweed, being just southeast of Bree Hill, Combe, which was an agricultural town on the borders of the Chetwood Forest, to the northeast and connected the many settlements, and Archet, which was in the Chetwood and north of Combe and was mostly settled by men. Bree was, of course, east of the Barrow Downs and the Old Forest as well, offering respite from anyone who perhaps traveled through and survived in such places. With the coming of Elendil and the faithful Númenóreans at the end of the Second Age, and the reign of Arnor throughout the first half of the Third Age, Bree and its nearby settlements would actually be annexed into the kingdom. And then, when the kingdom split into three during its history, Bree and its surrounding settlements were claimed by Arthedain, being actually very close to the Petty Kingdom's border, as Cardolan claimed the land between Bree and Weathertop and would go on to fight Rhudaur along their border here. Again, due to its location and economic importance, it is actually rather surprising that Bree did not find itself torn apart by the geopolitical strife around it. Bree would continue to grow, if only somewhat over the centuries, being the only place in Middle-earth where men and hobbits lived next to each other on a daily basis. And still, Bree survived the Angmar War and the total collapse of the three petty kingdoms of Arnor, with the Battle of Fornost in 1975. With the end of the Númenórean Kingdom of the North, Bree was left to rule itself, being still a place of trade and the like, yet it likely saw far less trade along its roads, as the north-south road fell into disrepair and became the Greenway. And since Bree was the most western village of men known to us in Middle-earth, it seldom saw too much trade and travel from people of other lands, besides the occasional wanderers like Gandalf, or rangers of the north who resupplied there, or dwarves coming to and from their homelands, or even hobbits. Yet still, the town likely saw far less trade than it did during its time in the North Kingdom. Like the town itself, the people of Bree weren't extraordinary heroes or people of legend. Rather, they were more or less ordinary, simple big folk. And since they are most like hobbits out of all the men that we encounter in the Legendarium, in many ways they were simple like hobbits. The Rangers would also watch the borders of Bree, providing protection to its people, unbeknownst to them, but we'll get back to that more in a bit. In the late Third Age, in 2941, Gandalf and Thorin actually had a chance meeting near or in Bree, and during this meeting, the two would arrange for the quest of Erebor, to slay Smaug and to take back the Lonely Mountain for the dwarves. Indeed, it was in Bree that the foundation of that adventure was made, but also, some decades later in 3018 of the Third Age, four hobbits headed east and would make their way into this town and to its famous inn, the Prancing Pony, where they would have a meeting with the heir of the North and South Kingdoms himself, Strider as he went by, Aragorn of the Dunedain Rangers. It was here that the ranger revealed his true nature to the hobbits and planned to lead them on to Rivendell. Even when the town of Bree was invaded by ringwraiths that night, and they broke into the Prancing Pony itself, terrifying its staff and innkeeper. Hence, Bree was a town that entered into yet another great legend, which would change Middle-earth at large forever. And we see this with Gandalf as well, as for wherever he went, change and great fate came there also, and he went through Bree a few times in these couple of years. Although the townsfolk did not quite like or trust the Rangers of the North, knowing them to be stoic and grim, they did not know that the Rangers were actually the remnants of the men of the North, of whose kingdom Bree once belonged to. And the men of Bree actually faced worse threats, such as brigands and ruffians from the south, men and brutish orcish men. Sadly for the men of Bree, the Rangers who guarded their borders were soon duty-bound to go south as the Grey Company, to find their chieftain Strider and aid him in the War of the Ring, leaving Bree to fend for itself for a time. Although Bree had guards at its gates and patrols in the town, without the Rangers to protect them, the city was overrun by the brigands and criminals from even within its hedge and from without, as even some of the so-called guards were affiliated with them, and some men and hobbits were slain as the brigands took charge of the village. In later 3019, Bree seemed quite different from when the hobbits and Strider left it. Gandalf and the same 4 hobbits came to stay at the Prancing Pony during their return journey, and Barlaam, the innkeeper, was surprised to learn that Strider, a ranger he never quite trusted, was actually the new king of the South and North kingdoms, and he would soon be returning north to make things right in Bree. And Aragorn would do just that, coming north in the beginning of the new Age of Men to free Bree from the brigands that took charge there, coming north likely with the Rangers, who had survived the war. And they made Bree once more a village of trade in the new kingdom of Arnor in the north. And likely with the death of Sharkey or Saruman in the Shire, his lackeys in Bree also faltered. While Bree never had much glory, it was a simple town that survived for ages in Middle-earth, which is more than what can be said for some settlements that were far greater and grander in the history of Arda. Due to its protectors amongst the men of the North, and the good hearts of the folk who dwelt there, Bree would continue to endure, and become even greater in the ages to come. And so we come to the end of our tale on Bree, Village of the North. From the story of Bree, we see that we should certainly be thankful for those who defend our homes. Nothing could be quite as good without them. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you all enjoyed this region spotlight. If you did, please be sure to hit that like button and share this with a friend. What are your thoughts on Bree? Let me know in the comments below. Bree is one of those simple, nostalgic towns for me in Tolkien's works, due to its placement in the story and how it was adapted in The Lord of the Rings Online. If you would like to support the channel, please consider getting some candles from our friends Mythologie Candles through the link in the description below, or check out our merch or Patreon. Thanks to our Valar tier patrons, Peter Shepard, Jonathan Putnam, Mark Kralik, Blair Scout, Merton, John Hume, Sam McBee, Matt Sabach, Elizabeth Calvert, Maz Gibbs, Reese Jenkins, Adam Petrolik, Brandon Glidden, Molly Sullivan, Daniel Burns, Anthony Harmon, Dorwin Gray, Arthur Merlin, DJ Vaught, and Dale Davis. Thank you so much to all of our patrons and YouTube members. It really means a lot. Please subscribe and hit that bell button to join the Men of the West and all of the free peoples today. And I'll see you all again next week with a video on the history of the years of the lamps and trees in 5 minutes or less. You all are the best, my friends. Thank you all so much for joining me on this adventure. Until the next one.